can you be a kid every single day, right? You want to have some form of being a kid every single day. That is training the athlete of life. Pick one of the longevity pillars. Just pick one: strength, endurance, dexterity, or mindfulness, and train it intentionally for the next 30 days. Don't overthink it. Just move, track, improve.
Welcome to Health Decoded, your number one source for real health information, with your hosts, Dr. Alessi and Matt Tack.
Welcome back to Health Decoded. I'm your co-host, Matt Tack. We're actually a solo host today because Dr. Alessi is out again. But just welcome back. I'm just flying solo for the past couple of weeks while Dr. Alessi is out transforming lives at the clinic. But today we're going to dive into something that I think about every single day, and we think about every single day at our clinic. And what is that topic? Longevity. So I've named this title of this episode, Longevity Decoded, Training for the Athlete of Life. I think we usually miss out on that term of athlete, where maybe after high school or even after college that we no longer consider, I used to be an athlete. We use that term quite often. And I want to change that. And I think I'm going to be talking a lot about Dr. Peter Attia today. And he wants to change that as well. We need to be called the athletes of life, and we need to be performing every day to maintain a sense of longevity. And what he always talks about is this element of health span, because lifespan is how long you live, but health span is how well you live it during the time you have. And the truth is the gap between those two is growing wider for most Americans. Dr. Peter Attia is one of the leading minds in longevity, and he breaks it down in measurable action pillars. So these measurable, actionable pillars are, number one, muscle mass. Muscle mass is extremely critical. Obviously, as you age, you get the bumps and bruises. You know, a lot of broken hips in those 70s and 80s really usually kill people. But if you have enough muscle mass, then you can prevent things like that. So grip strength is another thing. Just good old grip strength. Digging in, shaking somebody's hand, that is grip strength. But what he likes is dead hangs. You actually hang from a bar, and if you can hang for 2 minutes, that's actually his the peak. If you can hang for longer, obviously you're doing even better. But VO2 max is another thing that's as immeasurable. It's the velocity of oxygen at which you can produce an output, an intake output. So those are, you put a mask on, you get on a treadmill, and that's a way to measure your VO2 max. You start jogging, you're running. And the other thing is cognitive and motor dexterity. So he has measurables in terms of can you stand on one leg? Can you do various just dexterity drills, motor drills, and with cognition as well. So these aren't just random metrics. They're the foundation for how we move, think, and feel as we age. So if you want to stay in the game of life, not just survive, but be an actual person that's training like an athlete every single day, this episode's for you. So let's jump right in. The truth about aging. Here's a stat that'll hit you. After the age of 21, most Americans will never again experience what it feels like to be truly healthy. Let that settle for a minute. Not because aging is the enemy, but because they stop training for the game of life. Think of that for a minute. We stop building muscle. We stop moving with intention every day. We let pain, fatigue, oxidative stress, schedules dictate our biology day after day. So Dr. Peter Attia calls this a decay curve, the gradual decline of our physical and cognitive capacity. And it's not inevitable. It's a conscious choice. The biggest predictor of lifespan, your health span, how strong, capable, and mobile you are in your 40s, 50s, and even beyond. That is your health span. That's the predictor of lifespan, is your health span. So the moment you choose to stay static, that becomes your Achilles heel. So the reality is this: if you stop moving, your body stops remembering how to live. Let's dig into the longevity pillars here. Let's break down the main pillars Dr. Peter Attia focuses on how you can start improving today. I like all these actionable tips. We can stay in this land of you're not enough, you're not worthy, but the reality is, and there's actionable tips that I can build in here to help you through this process of getting back what you desire. So let's break down the Peter Attia, I can't talk today, Peter Attia's pillars on muscle mass and strength is number one. So muscle isn't just for aesthetics. It's a metabolic organ. It protects against insulin resistance, improves posture, and prevents falls later in life, as I talked about. So what does that mean? What are the actionable steps? Resistance training. You got to lift 3 to 4 times a week. I promise you, it's a necessity. I was talking about a young woman that was, hey, I want to bench 135. Well, that's a good goal. But her real goal was at 65, she wanted to feel good. She wanted to play with her grandkids if she had the ability to do so, right? And you have to do these things, right? You have to build in resistance training. So focus on compound movements, squats, deadlifts, presses, and carries, not for PRs, but for the purposes of everyday life. So track your grip strength. I think a great way to do this is actually hold on a kettlebell or a dead hang from a bar. Those are one of the strongest predictors of longevity is how can you hold your own weight for a long period of time. 2 minutes is the goal. So if you can hold a 70-pound kettlebell, 50-pound kettlebell, or even hold your body weight, which is even more, just completely dead hang, 2 minutes is the goal. Now, what's another one? A VO2 max. Not a lot of people know about this, and not even a lot of people think about it, but this measures your body's ability to use oxygen. It's the true endurance engine, right? So what I always talk about is zone 2 cardio. So steady state work like cycling, jogging, or incline walking for up to 120 minutes a week. When you break that down over a period of days, yes, it becomes harder when you're trying to fit it all in one day. But the reality is when you break that down with the consistency of a 7-day week, it's really not that much, right? You can do 15, 20 minutes a day. So sprinkle in those short bursts of zone 5 training, which is sprints, intervals, 1 to 2 times a week where you're running, right? I like doing this in basketball. I love this in basketball where I'm running. But I do this every day. I actually do some element of training where I'm actually opening up my hips. I'm skipping a lot, both in reverse and forward. So that's another idea. And I'm going to actually record some of these videos just so I can show. If you follow me on Instagram at human.optimizer, I'm going to start recording some of my workouts of things that I do to help you throughout this process. So what is number 3? Stability and dexterity. And what is that? So longevity isn't just about strength. It's about control. You need that controlled movement. Can you balance on one foot? Can you get up off the floor without using your hands? It's a tough one. Train coordination, agility, and flexibility. Those are all things, right? If you're extremely rigid, if your spine's extremely rigid, if your entire body's just full of stress, that is not something that you have agility and flexibility. You need that mobility. So use tools like a stability pad, a balance beam, or even barefoot training is a great way to do this, where you're grabbing with your toes, grabbing the ground with your toes. That's why we always encourage wide foot toe boxes, because you can feel your toes in those. I just changed actually my basketball shoes, so I have a little bit more wider. And if you guys play basketball, and if somebody's listening playing basketball, the Curry Flow-Trail 4s are phenomenal because I can feel all my toes in there, and they have to actually have a really soft, they're soft on my heel as well. So I love them. But those are some of the ways, right? Just hopping on a balance beam, being a kid again, right? Can you be a kid every single day, right? You want to have some form of being a kid every single day. That is training the athlete of life. So here we go for number 4 is cognitive and emotional resilience. This is one really big things that he has in his book of Outlive, is he talks about this. He talks about how he was a doctor of longevity, but wasn't really building emotional resilience into his daily life. And honestly, one of the last chapters, I was nearly in tears because he then realized the impact he was making on the world, but he wasn't making any impact at home. And that's the emotional resilience you got to step up to the plate. Sometimes you got to cry. You got to be there with your emotions. You can't just bottle things away. And that's what he was doing. So your long-term health isn't only about physical. You need to build in stress controls, right? And that's getting proper sleep, mindfulness of just breathing, stress control directly affects how your body ages. And I do want to mention something about like the barefoot training. That's part of a mindful tactic that I actually built in, is that I go outside and I'll just be in my bare feet. And that's just allows the energy of the earth to vibrate within me. And that's something I truly enjoy because it's a decompressor. I just breathe. I love it even after the rain. I just really think that that's really a quality mindful tactic that I've utilized. And I hope that you incorporate that in your daily life. It's a phenomenal way to just be mindful of the earth and the presence of the earth and the energy that it brings. So you want to prioritize at minimum of 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I prioritize 8+ hours of sleep. I usually go to bed at 9 and then wake up after 6. So that is something that it's really, really important in my life. I actually used to wake up at like 4 a.m. I used to go to bed 9, wake up at 4:30, but I prioritize sleep so much that 9 to really 6:15 is my wake up cycle now. And I love it. So meditate or journal daily, writing things down just to be reflective. I think that's a really important thing for people, just to write things down, because even if it's a fear, it really pushes that fear away once you write it down. You're like, is it that big? Right. And so writing those things down in a journal of like, why am I afraid of this? Right. And acknowledging it, in retrospect, is helpful in terms of how you make decisions in the future. And that's really utilizing discernment. So super helpful. And then protect your mental bandwidth. This is one critical things that I've done this year is I've said no a lot more to things. I've said no to a lot. And that is massive. I think one of your greatest superpowers is your ability to say no at times. No, I can't do that. It's a bit much. And so I say no often. I actually try to say it on a daily basis. Actually, no, like I'm not going to do that. So know what you say yes to and know what you say no to. It's just as important as your muscles, your yes and your no's. So longevity isn't luck. It's strategy. You definitely need to strategize the game of life, and it's stepping into your inner athlete. You don't guess your way to health. You train your way there. So let's start. Like, how do we train like an athlete every single day? So Dr. Peter Attia always says this. He says it best. You need to train today for the centenarian decade you want to live tomorrow. And not everyone is going to live to be a centenarian. That's just the reality of life. Not everyone is going to be, but you want to make the most out of the days that you've been given. And it's not in pain. That's not what you were intended for. It's not to, honestly, not even you want to live optimally, optimized. And so let's take some clear actionable steps on how you can do this. We've touched on a few, but train 3 times a week at minimum. Prioritize functional movements, as well as just physical movements. You don't need to set PRs, but you need resistance training built in. Add 30 minutes of movement every single day. Even walking counts. So you can, some element of, if you want to take a break during the workday. I know things. I was actually talking to a young woman the other day. She's like, time's against me, right? How do you start incorporating those in? I do push-ups. I love doing push-ups. It's something that I can activate very quickly. So I can get usually 100 of them in a period of 5 minutes or less. Those are great ways to incorporate things. Air squats, whatever you got to do for movement, those count. Do one thing daily to sharpen your mind, a book, a puzzle, or a conversation, right? Difficult conversations, I think everyone should be having daily. But another thing that I do is I started incorporating Spanish into my repertoire. So I actually utilize that for the purposes of cognitive really building where I'm learning a new language. And that has really helped me because I'm learning new words. And now I'm trying to translate those words where I'm not thinking them in terms of the English context, but just purely in Spanish. So my daughter and I are working on that together, and I love it. Right? That's another way. Hydrate. Hydrates. Probably, I would say one of the most important. We are walking around so dehydrated as Americans. So aim for your body weight in ounces of water every single day. You need to be getting a lot of water. And when you build in electrolytes, there's plenty of electrolytes packets out there. We use Element personally. I like the watermelon. So if electrolytes along with getting your body weight in ounces of water or slightly underneath that, you are doing it right. You're staying hydrated, and that can minimize headaches. That is also pumping your muscles full of water, so to heal faster. Water is just an essential of life. So make sure you're staying hydrated. And then sleep like it's your job, because it is, right? That enhancements, there is literally spinal fluid. As soon as you go to sleep, you go into stage 1, 2, and 3, you hop into REM sleep, and then you get into your deep cycle sleep. But the reality is, at the end of the day, is that there's a replenishment of spinal fluid going through your brain, chugging away like a toothbrush. So it's just like brushing your teeth. It's chugging away at your brain. So all that plaque is being destroyed if you get proper sleep. So that's what it means to have true cognitive health. And that's why you do need to sleep. So the truth here is you can't wait until you feel healthy to start acting like it. You have to act healthy first. And that's what gets you there ultimately. So you don't age overnight. You drift there daily. Longevity is that course of correction. Small daily improvements. Check out our last podcast of the 1%, right? That daily compounding is what creates this. And this is what longevity is all about. So the choice is static or strong. You get the option. Most people accept decline as normal. They let age dictate their emotions, their energy, and their identity. But the reality is this: you don't have to accept that. Nah, you don't have to accept that. You can choose movement. You can choose strength. You can choose longevity. You choose. It's a conscious choice. The key is consistency, not perfection. We speak that every single day. Every rep, every breath, every step you take toward being the athlete of life compounds in a healthier future. Because remember, health span is always greater than lifespan. The goal isn't just to live longer, it's to live better. The cost of doing nothing is losing your freedom tomorrow. So here's your challenge this week. Pick one of the longevity pillars. Just pick one: strength, endurance, dexterity, or mindfulness, and train it intentionally for the next 30 days. Don't overthink it. Just move, track, improve. That's how we do it around here, right? Because your problem is not random. It's built one decision at a time. If you found value in today's episode, hit the like, subscribe, share with someone who needs to hear it. Let's help more people take control of their health span, not just their lifespan. And remember, as always, Dr. Alessi says, your health is in your hands. I'm Matt Tack, and this has been Health Decoded. Let's train like an athlete of life, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to Health Decoded, where we break down the truth about all things health and empower you to take charge of your well-being. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. For more resources and personalized support, visit us at alessifunctionalhealth.com and sign up for our newsletter. To hear your questions answered live on the show, send them to ask@alessifxhealth.com. That's ask@alessifxhealth.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and remember, your health is in your hands.